It is 3 a.m. You are lying in bed, eyes wide open, replaying a conversation that happened 3 days ago. Did you say the wrong thing? What did they really mean by that pause? Your mind builds 5 different versions of what they were thinking, then builds 5 more responses you should have given. Each thought leads to another. Each worry multiplies. Your chest feels tight. Your heart races. You know you should sleep. You know this thinking is pointless. But knowing this only adds another layer. Now you are thinking about how much you overthink, which makes you overthink more. The exhaustion is not just physical anymore. It is mental. You feel trapped inside your own head with no way out. Most people believe the solution is to think better thoughts. Replace negative with positive. Logic your way out. Make a plan. But here is what they do not tell you. Every time you try to fix overthinking with more thinking, you are feeding the beast. You are using gasoline to put out a fire. There is a different way. A way that feels almost too simple to believe. It comes from Zen Buddhist monks who spent their entire lives studying the mind. And what they discovered will change how you see your thoughts forever. In the 17th century, there lived a Zen monk named Takuan Soho. He was not an ordinary teacher. He advised samurai warriors and even the shogun himself. Warriors would come to him with a problem that was getting them killed. They would say, "Master Takuan, when I face an opponent with a sword, my mind races. I think about his technique. I worry about my next move. I analyze whether I am fast enough. By the time I finish thinking, the moment is gone and the blade has already struck." Takuan would look at them calmly and say something that made no sense at first. "Your problem is not that you think too much. Your problem is that you think you should not think." The warriors were confused. Wasn't the whole point to stop the mental noise? But then Takuan taught them something that saved their lives. And centuries later, it can save yours too. The Zen Buddhists discovered a state of mind called mushin. The word breaks down simply. Mu means no or without. Shin means mind or heart. Together, mushin translates to no mind. But here's where everyone gets it wrong. Mushin does not mean having zero thoughts. It does not mean emptying your brain like deleting files from a computer. That is impossible, and that is not the goal. Mushin means having no attachment to thoughts. Thoughts still arise. They float through your awareness like clouds moving across the sky. But you do not grab them. You do not chase them. You do not build a home inside them and live there for hours. The thought appears, you see it, and then it dissolves on its own. This is the key that unlocks everything. Think about what happens when you overthink. One thought hooks into the next. You worry about a work meeting, which reminds you of a mistake you made last year, which makes you wonder if people think you are incompetent, which spirals into imagining future failures, which creates anxiety about things that have not happened and may never happen. Each thought grabs the next one and pulls you deeper. Before you know it, 30 minutes have passed and you are exhausted from a battle that only exists in your head. The Zen masters saw this pattern clearly. They understood that overthinking is not a thinking problem. It is an attachment problem. You are not thinking too much. You are holding on to thoughts too tightly. We have been taught the wrong solution our entire lives. When you feel anxious, people say, think positive thoughts. When you worry too much, they say just stop worrying. When you cannot sleep because your mind races, they say clear your head. But none of this works because all of it is more thinking. You are trying to use the mind to fix the mind. It is like trying to put out a fire by adding wood that has been soaked in water. The wood might be wet, but it is still wood. It still feeds the flames. The Zen approach is completely different. Instead of fighting thoughts, you change your relationship with them. And that changes everything. Here's the first practice that monks have used for centuries. It is called observation without attachment. You learn to watch thoughts the way you might watch cars on a distant road. You see them. You notice their color, their speed, their direction. But you do not run after them. You do not stop them. You do not climb inside and go for a ride. You simply watch them pass. One day, a student came to the Zen master Shunryu Suzuki. The student was frustrated and said, "I cannot meditate. My mind will not stop racing. Thoughts keep coming no matter what I do." Suzuki looked at him with kind eyes and said something surprising. "That is perfectly fine. Let your mind race. Just sit there and watch it race." The student was confused. "But shouldn't I try to calm it down? Isn't that the whole point?" Suzuki shook his head slowly. "The moment you try to calm your mind, you have entered the race. You have become part of the problem. Just watch. Do nothing else." This teaching contains a truth that most people miss their entire lives. The problem is never the thoughts themselves. Thoughts are just mental events. They come and go like weather. The problem is what you do with them. When a thought appears and you immediately believe it, follow it, and use it to create 10 more thoughts, you have become enslaved. You are no longer the owner of your mind. Your thoughts own you. But when you see a thought and simply observe it without judgment, without action, without attachment, something shifts. The thought still appears, but it has no power over you anymore. It becomes like a bird flying past your window. You notice it, then it is gone. You do not spend the next hour wondering where the bird went or worrying about whether more birds will come. This practice requires training because your mind has spent years, maybe decades, doing the opposite. Every thought that appeared, you grabbed it. Every worry that showed up, you believed it. You have taught your mind that thoughts are urgent, that they require immediate action, that they must be solved. Breaking this pattern takes time, but each moment you practice observation without attachment, you are rewiring your brain. You are teaching it a new way. That space between you and your thoughts. That space is freedom. The second practice is called zazen, which means just sitting. Every morning before dawn, Zen monks sit in meditation halls facing blank walls. They do not sit to achieve enlightenment. They do not sit to become better people. They do not sit to stop their thoughts. They sit for one reason only: to sit. That is it. When thoughts arise during zazen, and they always do, the instruction is beautifully simple. Notice the thought. Then return your attention to the breath. That is the entire practice. A thought comes. You notice it. You return to breath. Another thought comes. You notice it. You return to breath. You hear a sound. You notice it. You return to breath. Your leg hurts. You notice it. You return to breath. You judge yourself for being bad at meditation. You notice that thought. You return to breath. This practice trains something specific. It trains your ability to redirect attention. And this skill is everything. Overthinking happens because attention gets stuck in thought loops. You start thinking about one problem, and 30 minutes later, you're still thinking about it. Or about 10 other problems that branched off from it. Your attention is like a dog that has run away from home. Zazen is the practice of calling it back, over and over and over. The breath is always here. It is always now. It is always available. It never worries about tomorrow. It never regrets yesterday. When you practice returning to the breath hundreds of times during meditation, you are building mental muscle. And that muscle works outside of meditation too. When you catch yourself overthinking during the day, you know exactly what to do. Notice the thought. Return to the present moment. It is the same practice. You have already trained for this. The third practice is return to the body. Overthinking lives entirely in your head. It is pure mental space with no connection to physical reality. You create imaginary problems, then try to solve them with imaginary solutions, which creates more imaginary problems. Meanwhile, your body sits there wondering what is happening. The Zen approach recognizes something simple. You are not just a brain floating in space. You are a body. And your body only exists in one moment. This moment. Right now. So when you feel trapped in overthinking, the fastest way out is to drop your attention into physical sensation. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice the exact pressure, the temperature, the small movements. Feel the air moving in and out of your nose. Notice whether it is cool or warm, fast or slow. Feel the weight of your hands wherever they are resting. This is not a distraction trick. This is truth. While your mind can time travel to the past and future, your body cannot. It is always here. There is a Zen practice called kinhin. It is walking meditation. You walk very slowly, paying complete attention to each part of your foot as it touches the ground. Heel, arch, ball, toes. Then you lift the other foot with full awareness. Heel, arch, ball, toes. On paper, this sounds boring. It sounds pointless. But try it when your mind is racing with anxiety. As you bring full attention to the physical sensation of each step, something remarkable happens. The racing thoughts do not disappear, but they are no longer the loudest thing in your experience. The feeling of your foot becomes louder. The present moment becomes louder than the imagined future. And you realize something profound. Overthinking requires you to leave right now. It requires mental time travel. But the body keeps you anchored here. When you fully inhabit your physical form, overthinking naturally loses power. Not because you fought it, but because you gave your attention to something real. The fourth practice is single-pointed attention. In the traditional Zen tea ceremony, when you prepare tea, there is only tea. You heat the water. You measure the powder. You whisk until smooth. Nothing else exists. You do not think about the conversation you had yesterday. You do not plan what you will do after tea. You do not wonder if you are doing it correctly. You simply do the next action fully. This practice reveals why most overthinking happens. We try to hold too many things in our mind at once. We think about the email we need to write while eating breakfast. We plan next week's meeting while talking to someone today. We replay yesterday's argument while trying to fall asleep. The mind was not designed for this. It fractures under the weight. But when you give it one clear focus, something changes. The mind settles. Not because you forced it, but because you gave it what it actually needs. One thing to do, fully, completely, with nothing else pulling at your attention. A businessman named Hiroshi in Tokyo learned this after 5 years of sleepless nights. Work problems kept him awake. He tried positive thinking. He tried therapy. He tried medication. Nothing worked. Then a friend taught him this practice. At night, when his mind started racing about work, he would choose one simple task. Count breaths from 1 to 10. Then start over. 1 breath in, 1 breath out. Count 1. Next breath, count 2. If his mind jumped to work problems, he would notice it, then return to counting. Start over at 1. The first week, he rarely made it past 3 before his mind grabbed a work problem and ran with it. But he kept practicing. Notice the thought. Return to counting. Start over. After 2 weeks, something shifted. His mind learned a new pattern. When given a simple task and permission to return to it repeatedly, it stopped fighting. The racing thoughts still appeared, but they no longer controlled him. Not because he defeated them, but because he gave his attention somewhere else. Here is what the Zen masters want you to understand. Overthinking is not a disease. It is a habit. And like every habit, it exists because you have practiced it. Every time you follow a thought down a rabbit hole, you are practicing overthinking. Every time you believe a worry is urgent, you are practicing overthinking. Every time you try to solve imaginary problems, you are practicing overthinking. You have become very skilled at this habit. You have practiced it thousands of times. But here's the truth that sets you free. You can practice something else. You can practice noticing thoughts without following them. You can practice returning attention to the present. You can practice inhabiting your body instead of living in your head. These are different habits, and if you practice them enough, they become your new default. This is not magic. This is how the mind works. Here is how you begin this practice today. 1. Set aside 10 minutes each morning to practice zazen. Sit with your back straight, eyes open or closed, your choice. Notice your breath. When thoughts appear, and they will, do not fight them. Simply notice them and return to breathing. Do this every single day for 1 month. Do not judge whether it is working. Just do it. 2. When you catch yourself overthinking during the day, stop immediately. Feel 3 physical sensations. Your feet on the ground, air moving through your nose, the weight of your body where it sits. Name each sensation silently. This takes 30 seconds. It breaks the thought loop instantly. 3. Choose one daily activity to do with complete attention. Brushing your teeth, making coffee, walking to your car. Just one activity. During this activity, when your mind wanders, and it will, gently bring it back to what you are physically doing right now. This is your training ground. 4. When a worry appears, ask one simple question. Is this about something happening right now? Or is this about something I am imagining? If it is imagined, notice that. You do not have to believe every story your mind creates. You do not have to solve every problem it invents. 5. Practice this phrase throughout your day. Thinking is happening. Not I am thinking, just thinking is happening. Like you might notice, raining is happening. You are not the rain. You are the one who notices rain. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices thoughts. This small shift in language creates massive change. The Zen path does not promise that thinking will stop. The mind thinks. That is its nature. Like the heart beats, like the lungs breathe, the mind thinks. But you do not have to be controlled by every thought that appears. You do not have to follow every worry into its dark corner. You do not have to solve every problem your mind invents at 3 a.m. You can learn to observe, to let go, to return to this moment. Overthinking loses its power when you stop feeding it with your attention and belief. The practice is simple, but it requires patience. It requires daily commitment. The monks practice for years, not because it is complicated, but because the habit of overthinking runs deep. They practice because the path is walked one step at a time. Be gentle with yourself. Each time you notice you are overthinking and bring yourself back to now, you have succeeded. That is the practice. Not perfection, just returning. Again and again, with calm persistence. This is the way. If you are ready to step out of the cycle of overthinking and walk the path of mushin, write in the comments, I choose presence over endless thought. Thank you for watching.